join some of your future events virtually and hopefully at some point in person. So yeah, I'm just going to give you a brief introduction to basically the role of my organisation in the UK, because we are set up specifically to support energy innovation. And there are perhaps some interesting kind of lessons learned about things that go well, things that don't go well. So I'll just give a bit of an introduction of the kind of work we do. I'll try and keep it brief. I've been told I have 6 minutes, so I'll do my best, but please look forward to discussion about it later. So basically, so it's the Energy Systems Catapult is the name of my organisation, and that's a slightly strange name. So just to explain briefly what a catapult is. Essentially, the UK has, the UK government has set up 9 catapult centres in areas that they have seen as high priority growth or high potential growth. And these are spread throughout the country, and they're all in different sectors. So some are in medicine, there's one in digital solutions, there's one that looks at more kind of smart city related things and so on. And we work, there's 2 on energy. Excuse my kids screaming if you can hear that. There's 2 that work on energy. There's the offshore renewables Catapult, which is up in Glasgow in the north of the country, and there's the Energy Systems Catapult. But we all work in much the same way, which is we're all not-for-profit organisations. We all have some money from the government, but get more money from the private sector. We work with the government, academia, and the private sector. And we try to support innovation in our specific area. So the Energy Systems Catapult, with about 200 people in a couple of offices in the UK, or more accurately, about 200 offices around the UK just at the moment, because nobody's been in the office for a long time. And we do a number of things to support innovators. A couple of things I just want to bring out here, because we've already touched on this, as we are an Energy Systems Catapult. So the point is, we've already heard from this a little bit on this from in Amanda's intro, but we think that to really support innovation, you need to look at all the elements. You need to consider everything in the system. You can't just focus on one little thing. You've got to see how it fits into the wider energy system. What are the regulatory impacts? What does the consumer think of it? What are the kind of digitalization impacts and all of these kind of things? You've got to look at things holistically, and I think that's very important. So there's 2 main types of briefly. We have expertise in all of the kind of different subsectors that you'd expect, which we've got a bunch of engineers and experts of various different types, modelers and so on and so forth, and we use these to carry out our work. And essentially, there's 2 kind of things I want to focus on today, the key ways we support innovators. And the first one is directly engaging with and supporting innovators. So we can do this in a number of ways. They can come to us and we work with them. We bid for projects together. We do little bits of work for them. Or it could be that we do specific challenge calls. So we like to describe this in that we've got kind of 3 different tiers. So we have basically a universal tier, which is anybody who comes to us, if we can help, we do help. Then there's an incubation tier, which is a bit more concrete, and an acceleration tier, which is much more. And those latter 2 are done on the basis of challenge calls. So 3 or 4 times a year, we will pick a particular area of interest, sometimes sponsored by a corporate or a firm that we're working with, and we will go out to the energy community in the UK and we will ask people to apply. And we'll get lots of applications from innovators. We will select the ones we think are the highest potential, and we will give them support to try and help them scale up. So you can see here a little bit on the screen that we've done in the last couple of years. We've done 6 of these challenges, 6 IC challenges. For the first 4, we've listed up names. Sorry, for the 5th one as well. So the last challenge IC5 had firms like Serpol, Rotor Heat. Interestingly, Grid Duck. Olaf, you might want to get in touch with them. Solar Duck and Grid Duck working together sounds pretty cool. The one we've got going on at the moment is IC6, Smart Energy Innovations for International Markets. We haven't listed them up because there's 16 firms there. But basically, we pick these difficult sectors, we do challenge calls, and we try to support the organizations as much as we can to help them to scale up. And one of the really interesting ways we do this is using our Living Lab. So the Living Lab is 100, 150 homes throughout the UK. And these are real homes that people live in. Various different kind of representation of the UK population. So single people, older people, families, etc., a number of different homes. And the people in the homes have given us permission to monitor their energy use, see how they use their energy, and to actually trial new products and services in their home. So that's really exciting, because basically it's a way for innovators to de-risk what they're doing, right? They can try things in a real life setting without all of the expense that goes with a massive kind of product launch or market launch or something like this. So they can trial things in a few homes and they can see what they can do in it. And we think this is a really key part, is involving the consumer. The consumer has to be front and center if we're going to get to net zero, really. And we've used these homes in our Living Lab to test lots of different products, but also different business models. So rather than selling people units of energy, like kilowatt hours that they don't really understand, we've trialed things like selling people energy as a service, heat as a service. So it's much more like a kind of mobile phone contract. You know, you can get how much energy for this month's a set fee a month, or if you want, you can get a more expansive contract that allows you to use as much energy as you like, and these kind of things. We're trying different services, essentially. So, as I say, this is one of the things we do, is working with innovators in that way. One of the other things we do, and I'll just rattle through this quickly because I'm conscious of time, is we also do projects looking at some of the really difficult or key questions to get us to net zero. So we've heard about digital already just a tiny bit, but we've done a project called the Energy Data Task Force, which is, we were asked to do this by government, we supported it. And essentially this is looking at all the different players in the energy sector. They've all got loads of useful data. And if that data were available to innovators, people could come up with really interesting solutions. This task force was all about trying to work out what data's out there, what formats it should be in, how we can make it more open, how we can encourage innovation in that way. Because, I mean, certainly in the UK, some of the network operators, even things like where the cables actually are actually kind of on old maps and things like that. It's not all in a uniform digitalized format. We've also done one about task force on the electric vehicle uptake. And this is about what the government needs to do to encourage the necessary uptake and to get the infrastructure out. And this has come up with, I think, 21 different steps to support this transition. And the final one I wanted to flag up is we've done a project saying basically, so the electricity grid in the UK was made, for the most part, it was made when we had a few big power stations. Now we have lots of power generation all over the place. We also have smart technologies, we have electric vehicles, we have vehicle to grid, all this kind of stuff. The electricity grid wasn't built for that. So this is looking at what the electricity grid has to look like in 2030 to cope with all these changes and to enable a climate transition. So essentially, that's it, what I wanted to talk about today. But the things we do are looking at these difficult projects and doing research on them and demonstrations and directly supporting innovators. I'm sorry, I'm conscious I've gone over time, but hopefully that gives you a bit of an introduction and a flavor anyway.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And just a note for the audience, please either write your questions in the chat or scribble them down for yourselves and ask them later in the panel discussion. We'll take the questions after all the talks. But thank you, Andrew. Now we would be clapping if it was real life. So cool. So now I'd like to invite our next speaker, Lisa, to share her screen. And Lisa Fujise is a program manager at Venture Cafe Tokyo and director of operations at the Energy Tech Study Group. Lisa also has a PhD in marine biology, and with that has definitely observed the devastating impacts of climate change, for example, on the Great Barrier Reef. So to tackle climate change, she is creating an innovation environment and energy startup ecosystem in Japan. So I'm very excited to hear your talk, Lisa. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. Thank you very much for having me today, and then I'm pretty honored to share my activity with you. But I'm currently doing a lot of different things. But today I'll present as a Energy Tech study group, Energy Tech Benkyokai, which I'm running at the moment. So today, first of all, I would like to briefly introduce myself. As Amanda introduced me, I'm a actually in marine biology, so I finished my PhD in Australia to do the research on the coral reef ecology, and then at that time I observed really a big impact of climate change on Great Barrier Reef, and lots of corals is now like decreasing, number of corals are decreasing. So at that time I realized that not researcher alone cannot save entire coral reefs. So that's why we need the power of industry and society. So that's why I am passionate connecting key players like startups, enterprise researcher, and student, and also the other people who are willing to take action for tackling climate change, because we really need to conserve our natural resources from climate change, and then we definitely need a combined power. So that's why I'm currently working as a program manager of Venture Cafe Tokyo, which is a global innovation community to connect those key players. Yeah. And then also why I now passionate clean energy is because the shift into clean energy reduce our carbon footprint and then tackle climate change, and then this eventually conserve coral reefs. So that's why I'm really passionate to support like innovation in the energy sector. And then at the moment, I'm working as a director of Energy Tech Study Group, which is a community to bring those key players in the energy sector, like startups and large corporate, and also government together. And also, I'm currently working at the CIC Tokyo, which is a sister organization of Venture Cafe, but it is one of the largest innovation center in the world, which is started from Boston. And then we currently working to create a lot of like different like industry cluster, and then one of that is energy and environment, and we would like to support all the key players in the energy sector from the different directions. And then briefly explain about energy tech study groups. So I work together with two main members. One is both of them are working at the energy tech startup, and then they began this energy tech study group because they thought that, or they need to like gather all the information and knowledge together and then share within the community. So that's why we started since 2018 as a community to gather the people who are making challenges to make innovation happens, because the energy market is very big and also it's shifting rapidly. So we focus on understanding the overall pictures and then also sharing the forefront information about the energy markets to bring the key players from startups, large corporate, or any government or research institute to share the knowledge and then case studies, not only in Japan, but bring the keynote from the international market, and then share within the community, interact, and then we're trying to develop, co-create a project to work together. So our key point is like energy tech community and global. But why I think why community is important in this sector, because energy company is like more challenging to set up and then scale compared to the other average startup, because we need the lots of capital at the beginning, and then we realize lots of regulation. And then also we need to work together with an incumbent company which have a lot of resources. So that's why community is pretty important. And then it is a place to learn, connect, and share. This is the keyword for today. So that's why we organize an event to bring people who would like to know what's going on in the energy sector at the moment. And from a different point of view, for example, the last session that we did, we brought the key players from venture capital and then also corporate venture capital, and together with the startups to have a panel discussion to understand both from the overseas and in Japan, what's going on in the investment side, and then what is the needs for the startups from them. And then we also collaborate together with the community like ETM. So we did the event together to understand what is the power of community. And then I think the power of community is like we can gather all the information into the one place. And then if we have a different community, I think it is great to collaborate together to expand networks. So that's why we have these kind of events together. And then also at the moment, as an Energy Tech study group, we've had more than like 800 participants. And then we have a Slack group to keep communicating each other. And we have more than 400 members into the community. And then lots of media exposure. And then we collaborated with ministries, different ministries like MOE and then METI, and then also the Cabinet Office. And then also, we are the supporter of the startup because startups can change the world and they can make it, the innovation happen. So in the March 17th, so we bring those startup together and then have a award ceremony, which the Ministry of Environment set up the Green Startup competition. And then we're going to have a big event together to bring all the key players in environment and energy sector and then create a community of them together with like ETM and in the other community. So if you're interested in that, would be great. You can come over. But yeah, this is the brief introduction about what Energy Tech Study Group does and then what my interest is as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. That's cool. Yeah, I've been working with Lisa, or ETM has been working with Lisa and her communities for a while too. So it's always amazing of how many different things Lisa can do and still be so good at each thing. So thank you so much for speaking.
Thank you.
And last but not least, I'd like to invite Marcus to share his screen. So Marcus is currently a PhD student in computer science at the Tokyo Institute of Technology with a fellowship from the Japan Society for the Promotion of Science, or JSPS. For the last 2 years, he has been the campus director of HALT Prize. Of course, Marcus will share more about that. That is basically an organization that promotes social business within the university, including things like climate innovation. So Marcus, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Amanda, and good night, everyone. My name is Marcus Masukawa, and like Amanda said, I lead an organization in the Tokyo Institute of Technology that promotes social business. And I think my talk today is mainly for those people who intend to create a new business or a new organization. And the reason why I want to talk about that is by being so close to student initiatives, I can see when the ideas are born, and I can also see some misconceptions that the students have when they are trying to turn these ideas into something bigger. And I would like to discuss today why some of these ideas fail, and mainly the ones that try to solve social and environmental problems. First, I'd like to say that I'm from Brazil, and it's a country that I like very much, but where I've seen many social and environmental problems. And one of the things that I remember as a child is that every year, ashes rained from the sky. And that was due to the burning of the sugarcane crops, which in Brazil are a problem related to the energy sector. So you have this huge sugar plantations. They're used for sugar, but also for biofuel. And every year they're burned and the ashes just rain over the cities. And there's another problem that it requires very intense manual labor. And many workers die every year from heat and exhaustion by working on the plantations. And this is just an example of one of the environmental problems that I've witnessed. And I think this kind of problems that we see in our everyday life or that we learn about, they create on us a sense of shock or a feeling that something needs to be done. And I'm sure that this feeling of dissatisfaction, this seed of dissatisfaction that grows on us during time, it probably exists inside many of you. And that's why you became more socially aware of these problems and you decided to start something. And if I remember my mind when I was a teenager and thinking about this problem, uh, and start thinking about solutions, probably my model of my mind would look like this image. And I thought that maybe if I could start something, maybe a single idea, or if we start an organization, there would be some trigger and that would culminate with a goal, a small action that would cause bigger change and then caused by solving the problem that I had in mind. And I believe this mind model is the reason why many initiatives fail, where you believe you're going to have a small action and actions will have a linear effect and the pieces are already in place. You just need to start something. So I want to propose an alternative mind model, which is called systems thinking, which is very intuitive and obvious, but I think it's underused mainly by those who want to start something new. So if I take this example of the sugarcane burning, the way I would treat this problem today, or I would start treating this problem, would be by drawing the systems thinking map of this problem. And systems thinking is this set of vocabulary that you can use to describe a situation and be true to its complexity and try to understand the agents that play in it. So suppose, for example, that I would start with the sugarcane burning, which is the problem. I would include the agents, which are the NGOs, the farmers, the laborers, the population, the car industry, and just a few to begin with. And I start drawing relations between them. So for example, I would see that the population and laborers have health problems related to the burning of the sugarcane, which causes costs to the governments. But the government also receives taxes from the farmers. And the government also invests on R&D for developing the car engines. They use ethanol, or they use the biofuel of the sugarcane for energy sources. And even burning the sugarcane, it is carbon negative. So many of the NGOs support the sugarcane crops burning. And the NGOs not only don't agree between themselves, but they also compute from resources from the government and from the population. The banks fund the farmers, some have biofuel portfolios, some have machine credit lines. And these machines, they prevent the sugarcane burning because they are an alternative way to crop it. And you see that even including just a few agents, they generate a very complex set of interaction. But there is no domino effect. And today I believe that if you want to maximize your efforts and create lasting results, most of the time the best way is not to create a new agent, but to improve the relation between the agents that already exist. However, many of the times, and I see this in the things that I try to start, things that the students try to start, they try to solve a problem without even knowing that these agents exist. And this is the most common mistake based on my own experience. And this is what a timeline of my failure and the failure of other students look like. So it usually starts with a good intention. We get shocked, there's something we want to change, but there is a system of complexity that we have no knowledge of. And instead of trying to work with the agents that already exist, we most of the times unnecessarily try to increase the complexity of this model by adding another agent. And then we create this extra complexity. And what ends up happening is that we face unexpected outcomes and we find unexpected opposition. So for example, in the sugarcane problem, I as a teenager would never imagine that if I said, I'm opposed to this, even the NGOs wouldn't agree with me. The laborers wouldn't agree with me because they need the work. The farmers wouldn't agree with me. And if I think about this problem today, the way the mature me would try to solve it would maybe try to find unexpected allies and try to understand the complexity of the problem first. I could see, for example, that the health specialists might be unexpected allies to the burning of the sugarcane. And maybe I could start working with lines of credits that the farmers can use to buy machines for making the transition for burning sugarcane to using automated crops. So in conclusion, I believe that the reason why most social and environmental initiatives fails, mostly from the students, is because of the mental models that they build to describe these problems. And I think systems thinking is a useful model that's very intuitive to use. And I would like to recommend this book by David Peter Stroff about using systems thinking to describe complex problems. And I think what the meeting we're having here is very important because it is a system thinking approach. It's recognizing the agents that exist in the energy business and meeting these agents and know how they affect each other. And that's why I believe the most impactful thing that we could do for the energy business today is share about this event and invite the other agents to come to the next event. This was a very general idea from what I observed from the students and from my own experience. And I'm looking forward to hear why do you think student initiatives fail or why they succeed. We have many successful people here, so listening from the other side would be also very valuable. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. I couldn't have said it better myself. Maybe I should definitely read that book because anytime I try to make line diagrams, like I have so many lines going everywhere. So my mental model is a little bit crazy. So thank you. So yeah, now let's jump into the panel discussion. I'd like to remind everyone, please do either shout out your question or also write it in the group chat. And I've gotten some questions already, so I have those in mind. But before we open up the floor to the audience, I'd like to invite Yuka-san from Impact Hub to open with the first question.
Okay, so I actually have like very general question and more personal things to ask. So why do you personally think it's really important to encourage and innovate in energy innovation? And what kind of value you want to create by accomplish that? So I would like to point Lisa?
Yeah, sure. Why I think that it is pretty important to make innovation in the energy sector is because the energy sector at the moment is like really, how can I say, it's not, old, but pretty like rigid, not many like flexibility at the moment. But in Japan, we shifted to open up the market in a couple of years, and then there is a lots of like opportunities for the player to change that old system. And then also, if you look at the other countries, they are all moving towards like net zero, to create a net zero future. So that's why to make that happen, we definitely need the innovation, because at the moment we like produce a lot of like CO2 emissions. So if we would like to actually change that and then bring it to the net zero situation, we definitely need the really like innovative solutions to change, to create a sustainable future. And then especially as a biologist point of view, as if we lose, like for example, just one corals, which means like we lose a lot of diversity on top of that organisms. So that's why it's really important to conserve those ecosystems, because a lot of elements rely on that ecosystem. And to do that, to shifting the energy to the clean energy is pretty important. And then that's why to make innovation happen in that energy sector is really important. You really need to take action at the moment. Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa. I love how you kind of connected it to biology as well. Because that's what we've been talking about as well, kind of how diverse fields of expertise come together. So thank you for the great reply. And I'd like to pass the mic for the same question, maybe to Andrew. Anything to add?
Thank you, Amanda, and thank you, Yuko-san, for the question as well. So why it's important to innovate and what value can create. I am going to echo a little bit of what Lisa said. I mean, you know, we all know climate change is here. We all know climate change is happening. We all know it's a massive, big deal, unless you're a slightly crazy person in an absolute minority now, you've acknowledged that climate change exists, right? So climate change, frankly, will require us to, if we want to avoid some of the massive, potentially devastating effects of climate change, we're going to have to make changes everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. And energy is so fundamental to our everyday lives. You know, you think about what part of what you do each day doesn't rely on an energy supply, right? It's absolutely crucial to us. So cracking energy in a net zero way is going to be absolutely crucial. And as I mentioned before, the system wasn't set up for this, right? When our grids and our energy system was set up, I mean, you know, it wasn't set up with a grand idea in mind often, it was just kind of evolved over time, but it wasn't set up in the context of a climate transition. And so we need innovation to change it, to make it fit to purpose, to make it fit a net zero future. I mean, just on the most simple example, we all know that, you know, renewable energy is absolutely the way forwards, but renewable energy can be intermittent depending on the type of energy. So we need to have systems and innovations to make it all fit. So I guess, yeah, I mean, the need is there, is obvious because of climate change, and it's just so fundamental. And the other thing is we've got to change it in a way that doesn't turn all the lights off, right? It's not, you can't just try new things and then the lights get turned off and then we all have problems and blackouts and things. So innovation is absolutely crucial to enable us to get to a net zero energy system, I think. And in terms of the value an innovation can create, I think the sky's the limit, really. So not quite a lot of you guys will be too young to remember, but I remember a world before Amazon and a world before Facebook and these kind of things. Consider how much something like Amazon has changed the world, right? That's an innovation in a digital commercial sphere. There is no reason why innovations in energy couldn't have as big an impact on our world as something like that. So I think the sky is the limit. Firstly, they're necessary. And secondly, they could achieve so much if we can get the right innovations. Yeah, that's my thoughts on it anyway. Thanks.
No, thank you. I was just thinking, like, I can't imagine a world without Amazon, or especially Uber Eats for myself, because I get very lazy and I'm just at home the whole day. I totally agree. And I'd like to take this opportunity, because we're talking about this theme of energy as well, to highlight that, you know, energy is not only electricity, it's so many different things. It's like fuel, it's heating, it's cooling, it's transport, it's buildings, it's industry. So I think as Andrew said, like, we have to innovate through all of these different areas to really reach net zero emissions. So yeah, so just Energy Tech Meetup is not only about electricity, but about all these different kinds of energy as well. So Marcus, any additional comments?
Yes, I think that for me, the reason why it's important to innovate in energy is because, based on what I've observed in Brazil, energy is related to the environment and environment is related to social issues. And it's a very complex ecosystem in Brazil because, for example, if you look at Brazil, it has a very clean energy matrix. It's mostly from hydropower. But when you build an hydro plant, if it's not well planned and it floods the forest, it can generate even more methane that has the worst effect on the global crisis. Or when you have biofuel as sugarcane, which is carbon negative, you still have all these health issues and you have workers dying in the crops. So for me, the biggest motivator is the social impact that changing the energy system can have.
No, I totally agree. I think we often forget to think about the social aspect of things because we're so focused on either technology, economics. We forget, like, maybe people who used to work in oil or coal plants don't know how to operate a solar panel or to fix a wind turbine. So that's a whole other, I think, event or theme for for ETM, the social aspect of energy. So I want to invite everyone again to write your questions in the chat. And I'd like to just share one question, or I've gotten two questions for Andrew so far. So I'm going to kind of combine them with my question as well. So a very practical question, I guess. Marcos asked, what is the kind of profile of the energy innovators for the Catapult projects? For example, is it mostly students or within established companies already? And my question, which is linked to that, is also, are they welcome from anywhere in the world?
That's a very good question. So we engage with innovators of all sorts and on across the whole TRL level, if people know this, the technology readiness level. So all sorts really, although a lot of the energy innovation in the UK at the earlier levels does tend to be focused at universities and so on. So I'd say we work more with what we offer to each firm depends on where they are on this level. So very early stage, any firms we can offer kind of signposting, introductions, information, this kind of thing, so that they can start to learn about all of these kinds of connections that are absolutely crucial that Marcos so eloquently introduced in his presentation. We try and make that information available to as many as possible. And so we've got, for example, this online portal where people can log in, and there are community groups, and there are kind of fact files and thought pieces and this kind of stuff. I think when we start to offer them the kind of commercial and technical support, they start to become more established firms, right? So they're registered, they have a business, and we're helping them scale up. So I think it's a bit of, it tends to be more of the established, already in business firms, but we try and support everyone we can by just information sharing and raising visibility of things. In terms of international, our kind of remit is to support UK firms, but I actually work in the international department, and that is, so my role is on getting kind of bilateral or multilateral collaboration going. So I can't, for example, it wouldn't be my job to support some Japanese firms on their own, but if there were opportunities to link Japanese firms to UK firms, get them to work together, looking at universal challenges and that kind of stuff, that's absolutely something we can do. And we think one of the reasons we have an international department is that we think the challenges we're facing are so global and so complex that linking people from different business ecosystems, from different ways of thinking with different solutions is going to help us do things quicker and more efficiently. So yeah, hopefully that's clear. In terms of linking with UK firms and getting people to work together is absolutely something we can do.
Thank you. Yes, we don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? If we have a really super innovative startup in Japan who is doing exactly what you guys are looking for, then personally, I think it makes sense to put people in touch. So does anyone, okay. We have one question from Olaf saying, currently in the wind and solar industry, focus is on cost only. What is required to also take the social aspect into consideration in energy innovation? That's a tough question. I think it's a question we're all struggling with right now. But who would like to go with that? Maybe
Can
Lisa?
I answer this one?
Oh, Marcos, go ahead.
Thinking again in the case of Brazil, I think the important question for solar and wind is to ask, where is the solar and the energy and the wind energy? And in the case of Brazil specifically, it's in the Northeast region, which is the poorest region of the country. So solar and wind energy have huge potential of changing this region. However, there's the balancing factor of the cost of operating that, which is higher than operating in the South. And you don't have the maybe engineers, or you don't have the human resources that you need locally. So although there's huge potential because that's where it's sunny all the day, that where it's windy all the day, you don't have the human resources. So I think this is the most important aspect to consider when you're looking for innovation in the sector. Sometimes where the wind is or where the sun is not where the human resources are. So do you train these people? Do you bring people? Like, how do you solve this problem? I think is the main issue.
Lisa, Andrew, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so for example, the installing the solar into the farm, like solar sharing system that not only like generate electricity from solar, like and also like creating a clean energy, but that also support like the farmers' income. So that's have like a social impact for them to add value, not only creating a clean energy, but also support those farmers to continue their agriculture. So that's one of the aspects of the, I think, the social goods for installing the solar, and then also like the solar and then the wind farm and then like distributed energy system. Like for us, like in Japanese people, we already have access to energy. So it's kind of like an additional feature for us. But the people who don't have access at the moment to the energy have a really a different meaning to put in those distributed energy system. So that's also how the social like aspect for them to like provide them access to the energy. So if we can like also focus on that point and then invest into that area, I think we can promote more to bring the solar and then the wind farm into our energy system.
Thank you. Andrew, do you have anything to add?
Yes, thank you. So, I mean, from my perspective, Olaf, this is an incredibly tough question, right? And this is why we have environmental impacts and things like this. And because social and environmental factors are not really baked into market forces in the same way as cost and so on. So they are externalities, yeah. So you can say that my product will have these great environmental and social impacts, and you can make a compelling case of that. You know, that at the bottom line is most people will look at the cost, unfortunately, because it's those factors aren't reflected in the cost at the moment. So this is a massive problem that the environmental sector has been wrestling with for decades, frankly. I think there are some things we can do, and I think you know the other speakers have touched on them nicely. I think there's a lot about raising visibility. So people are much more aware of these things now than they were 10 years ago and 10 years ago before. So be sure we've all got to make efforts to raise up the local considerations of where you're putting something, how it impacts on people locally. We've all got to be sure that we do everything. Whenever we talk about things, we talk about the wider ways it fits into the system, the wider benefits it has, and just try and raise this consciousness and visibility. And, you know, there are promising signs. For example, there are now movements to ensure that, you know, firms that invest pension funds, when they invest, they have to follow certain criteria that consider environmental and social things. And this is a really growing movement. You know, 10 years ago, that wouldn't be there at all. And we still have the ridiculous situation, for example, in the UK, pension funds are a pet hate of mine, yeah? But there are lots of vegans in the UK, but 2/3 of vegans in the UK are actually investing in the meat industry. They just don't know it because their pension funds are investing in the meat industry. You know, 80% of people in the UK admit that climate change is a problem. 2/3 of them, probably more, without knowing it, are investing in the oil and gas industry because that's where their pension funds go. So raising awareness about these things is absolutely crucial because that will push the finance to start to consider those things. And there are people doing this, and actually there's a group with more than like 150 Japanese companies signed up now that basically says when you invest pension funds, you have to consider these environmental and social factors as well. And it is a growing thing. And the more the voice of consumer goes on about it and the louder we shout, the more people will have to do it, essentially.
Yeah, I think.
Thank you very much for the 3 different answers, and all 3, I think, can contribute a different perspective, but also different solution. That's interesting. Thanks.
Yeah, I think there's a million different perspectives. That's like a million different events for ETM. So thank you so much. And we have one question from Leandro about what do you think is the biggest bottleneck for energy innovation? So I want to combine this with another question for Lisa to begin with. So I think in Japan, like the energy innovation scene, or like the community, has evolved over time. So I'm wondering, how do you think this has evolved over time, and how has it impacted innovation? And then the question, what do you think is still the biggest bottleneck going forward for energy innovation?
Yeah, so I jumped into this sector like 2 years ago. Like when I was in Australia, I joined the Energy Accelerator. Then they were supported lots of like startups to grow. And then at that time, I did some research about like what's happening in Japan, and then is there any like energy innovation community in Japan? But at that time, I couldn't find any like these kind of sites like ETM, and then also like what we do, those community focus in energy sector in Japan. So that's why I thought that I really wanted to like create those community, and then support like the people who would like to make innovation in the energy sector. And then I come back in like 2018 and then started this activity. But I met with Amanda doing this activities, and also like the other community which I work together with, like Clean Tech Labs, which the person from like TEPCO is leading that community, and then also CIC, that's the global community, and then focusing on the energy sector as well to collaborate with the ministry. And then also there is like a energy and an environment focused venture capital, and then they also creating the ecosystem for startup to showcase their works and then also connect with potential investor. So I think back for 2 years, and then now we are actually moving to the right direction, like building that community and then expanding the ecosystem to like bring those key players together at one place. And then I believe that collaboration is one of the key to make innovation happens. So interact with a different player to change the world. And then still, I think the biggest challenge for like making innovation happen in energy sector is like making like the startups like in energy sector, it's pretty like capital intensive, not only like financial capital, but also the human and then social capital. And that's why we need a place to gather those capital and then give access to entrepreneurs who are working to make innovation in the energy sector. And then, for example, like human capital that like Sartak explained, we need like a mentor networks, and then give access to the people who really would like to know more about what's going on in the energy market in Japan, and what's the trend, and also what's the regulation, because the regulation is so different based on the countries, and not only focusing, if the startups not only focusing in Japan, they also need to understand the other regulation in the different markets. So gathering those human capitals is also pretty important. So that's why I think the community also needs to come together and then make ecosystem for that, to give access to all of those capitals for the entrepreneurs who would like to make innovation happen in the sector.
Thank you. I love this is I guess this is the last question we'll have time for, but I think it's a great question to end with on a like practical approach, like what's the next step? So I'd like to ask the same question. What do you think is the biggest bottleneck for energy innovation? From Leandro, thank you. Starting with Marcos, and then then Andrew, and then we'll open up for networking.
Thank you. Yeah, I cannot answer what is the bottleneck for the global innovation, but I can answer what is for my university. And I think that here it's capillarity. That is the main word. So if you draw the systems thinking map of all the organizations that allow the access of students to the energy business, There will be ETM, there will be Energy Tech study group, there will be the Catapult in the UK. But if you ask the random student in our university, they have no ideas of these organizations. They have maybe no interest or have never heard about that. And the biggest challenge for my organization in the university is the capillarity, reaching students, going through groups, reaching different groups with different interests, and knowing that they have all of these opportunities. I've learned so many opportunities related to the social, environmental, energy business, but the average student doesn't have it. So I think the capillarity is the main issue for us, and I believe for a lot of social and energy innovation.
Thank you, Marcus. Andrew, any final words on that topic?
So thanks. Quickly, another tough question, but I mean a few things. So firstly, just because this might be interesting for everybody, last year we actually did a survey of SMEs in the UK and innovators in the UK, and we asked them, in their opinion, what were the biggest barriers to innovation and to growth, and some of the answers that came out of that survey were suitable commercial support. So that's the finance question that, links to what Lisa was saying about it being capital intensive, that kind of thing. Knowledge about regulations, understanding the necessary relationships, that links to what we've been saying about the systems thinking and how these things interact. And then, ensuring their innovation readiness. And what I think is touched on by that is for me is a crucial point of you can actually testing things and proving things. So the energy sector is necessarily a kind of risk averse sector because, as I mentioned before, nobody wants to try, even if you have a great new product. It's one thing from having this great new product to actually convincing somebody who's a network operator that it's okay to put it on their network, because nobody wants to risk being the people responsible for a blackout or a failure or something like that. First of all, it's reputationally, secondly, financially, all of these things. So I think it is a more risk adverse sector than many other industry sectors. So I think giving people the opportunity to really test things in as close to a real life context as possible. So you can get this kind of, you can build this credibility and this track record, I think is absolutely crucial. And I think, again, what we've talked about today, raising information, raising visibility, building networks, and that kind of thing. I think just a final word in terms of kind of globally, one of the barriers to energy innovation that I see is that there is still often a bit of an assumption. I'm sure you guys probably don't see this differently, but you guys probably see this differently, but you've probably encountered it. There is still a bit of an assumption out there that using green solutions is more expensive. It's worse for the economy, will cost jobs and this kind of thing. And I think we've kind of shown in lots of cases now that that's not the case. I mean, for example, the UK, we've got to kind of a large chunk of our electricity is generated from renewables now, whilst the GDP has grown. I mean, 2020 accepting, right? But so I think that's a really high level one, but that is a barrier that we still have to challenge. Is there are people who are, there's still people who think that actually I can't explore these green options because it will cost jobs politically. And I don't think that's necessarily true anymore.
Thank you, Andrew. I think that's really good food for thought as final words, and a very important issue to bring up as well, because I agree. I think a lot of times there's an argument against renewables or green tech in general is that it's too expensive, but not anymore. So yes, so usually for the networking around this time, we would, pre-corona days, have a beer and have some wine and have pizza and talk. But now we'd like to open up the floor to anyone who'd like to share a project or get in touch or find partners or talent or anything like this. And unfortunately, I will need to jump off the call, but we will have Yuko-san and also other people from ETM on the call. So please feel free to stay as long as you want. We will have the Zoom room open for another 25 minutes. So I'd like to thank all our speakers one more time, and also our partner for the event, Impact Tokyo. So thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Amanda.
Thank you, Amanda. Take care.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also saw that a couple of other people joined later. So I'm kind of interested. So if you would like, I would like to ask what everyone thought about the talk, and what do you think about this kind of event? And we also have an idea for a new kind of event, and I would like to get people's opinion for that. So one of the ideas that we have for continuing the Dine and Discuss is to organize a debate around ETM topics and around energy, and probably from what people think. And I would like to get an opinion on what a debate, like having a debate on this platform, would be for people. What do you think about that? So should I randomly ask someone? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I would like to, because actually I think Mohamed Usman gave a nice question, which might be actually a good one for debate. So Japan wants to become net zero, and the big question is, of course, how is Japan ever going to achieve that? Since I think it's one of the last in line in the renewable energy transition. So yeah, I think that would be a very interesting topic for a debate.
Thank you. I will take note of that question. Is Mohammed still here? If you're here, what do you think of a debate?
Thank you so much for this interesting platform. Actually, I joined its first time. One of my lab member, Yuanga, posted it on LinkedIn, and I thought I should join this because I'm also working on a biofuels in Japan. Still, I'm a M2 student, and I will be promoted as a PhD student in September 2021. So I'm working on a production of biofuels from wastewater sludge. Like, we are going to correlate waste to energy. It will help to produce biofuels, carbon neutral, and the second thing is waste management. Which Japan is going to just dispose, or they are paying money to landfill, or maybe whatever they are doing. So my my contribution is, I will just suggest it should not be an energy innovation. It should be sustainable energy solutions. Like sustainable, it's not talking about only wind or solar. They're talking about many kinds of options in renewable energies. Like solar is also renewable, wind is also renewable, biofuels are also renewable, biomass, waste. Like, let's suppose if we just talk about the food waste, only food waste. So food waste is $1 trillion per year. Like 1.4 billion ton of the food waste is wasting per year. If we talk about the wastewater sludge, then this is the second contribution of the world waste generation. So this can be a helpful solution for the, till now we propose to the Japanese government, like only from Tokyo, if we talk about the populated area, metropolitan area, Tokyo, we can produce the more than consumption of fossil fuels in Tokyo. And that will reduce the 78% carbon emission only in Tokyo. So we are in touch with the wastewater treatment plants, and we are going to propose our idea to them. We need some support for a pilot plant to prove this is possible. So I would suggest, if it will be not only a specific, a diverse field or multidisciplinary areas in sustainable energy, then I would like to. And the next thing in my profile, I would like to share, I'm also working as a career counselor since September 2019. So I have my own website, I have YouTube channel, I have a big network of 60,000 students in Facebook group, which I'm dealing with different questions and answering them in a different careers related, not only jobs in terms of applications, scholarships, or maybe some funding options. So I would like to join this platform. Thank you so much for your nice presentations and our speakers. Yeah, and ETM team.
Thank you, Mohammed. So he kind of shared his view already on that topic, I think, a lot. So basically, that's one debate to say waste is the way forward for Japan. And but it's quite interesting to see what other people think. If we're gonna have and before I go into that in more detail, yeah, if you guys everyone should feel free to connect with each other. Mohammed just shared about what he does and his own platform. So it would be nice if we can actually share stuff like our LinkedIn connections on the chats and people can connect based on their interests as well. And maybe we have some brief introductions on the chats about who we are, and then people can get to know us through the networking as well. So I was going back to the debate option and the question that was thrown. What kind of debate do you think we should have? Should we have, let's say, we organize our own people, which means we invite certain people in the energy industry from different aspects, maybe from the government, and then they, based on the topic, they contribute they debate on their ideas or what they think, and the audience will judge. Or what do you think it should be open? The audience decides which parts they are yay or nay, and then the audience, they give their own voice. What kind of debate would you prefer as an audience?
I think it would be interesting to have people who have different opinions, and it would be interesting to have a vote in the end, but I don't know how much if people would like that, but I would definitely watch it.
Okay. Noted. Anyone else?
On my side, I would, when we go into a debate, I would like to narrow the field a little bit. What we have here is a general talk about energy, and we've touched so much facets of it: social, solar, wind, practical, taking into or going to the students and introducing it to them. When we do a debate, I would be more comfortable if it was both in a narrower field every time, so we could focus the time that is very crucial for everybody.
So yeah, so basically, like, we pick a particular topic and then that is very focused, and then everyone talks about it, or we have people actually select people that debates it. Is that what you mean, Ami?
Yep. Pick a topic. It can be solar, it can be wind, it can be anything. It doesn't matter really, but for a 2-hour period, let's do them very or as much as we can on the same topic. Not that this wasn't a great talk, it was, and it was really interesting, and it's always interesting to see in the wide perspective, but that's a different kind of debate.
Okay, thank you for your opinion. Anybody else has something to contribute? What they imagine a good debate would be? Yes, Virendra?
I think a good debate will definitely need to include a few government officials, so that we know which way the government is intending to take things, because it's pointless debating about something that the government is not in line with. So a good debate, I think, should include a few government officials, because they always make things easier when they are aligned with the thinking that's out there in the general public.
Okay, thank you. So this means that this is another view, having specific people to come and debate on that particular topic. Or it's possible we could also mix it as well, have like the audience vote yay or nay on these topics, right? And you have the specialist or someone from the government official debate their views on that as well. But that's interesting to take note of. Thank you. Okay, so I'm opening the floor. If you have any ideas about the debate, just send us a message on any of our platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn. We are actually excited about this idea. We're looking at what is the best way to organize it virtually, thanks to Corda. But yes, I'm looking forward to a nice debate session and your ideas and topics you think would be interesting to talk about. It's highly welcome. Okay. So I'm just going to give the floor so other people can talk, introduce themselves, and share what they think generally.
I think I will take this opportunity to ask Lisa a question about the original motivation to work in the energy sector, energy innovation sector. So as a marine biologist, I think when you studied the coral reefs in Australia, you felt the necessity to actually take actions in a broader perspective, joining all of the contributing factors and improving the ecological aspect of coral reefs. So from 2018 to 2021, in these 3 years working in the energy sector, do you think the situation is actually getting better? The coral reefs are restoring to their original shape, or do you think it's still not enough?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, the situation of coral reef is not getting better at the moment. It's getting worse because it takes really a time to restore those coral reefs. So that's why we really need an urgent action to take. Of course, like the world is shifting towards clean energy, which is really good, but still, like the climate change has not stopped yet. So that's why we really need to accelerate more like innovations to change this situation at the moment. Otherwise, like it is said, like our race will disappear in next 20 years. Yeah. And then also, of course, I think shifting to clean energy, like indirect way to conserve those natural resources like coral reefs. But we also need to like directly conserve coral reefs to support like researchers, and then also the other industries need to put more efforts to actually like understand the mechanism and how we can like restore those coral reefs, for example, in the different area as well. And then I'm currently not working together, but just met with one like startup working to create a system which we can monitor, and then also we can do more experiment within the aquarium to save coral reefs. So if people can like support those startups who is directly working towards conserving coral reefs, maybe we can conserve coral reefs.
I asked this question particularly because I read the news articles only recently that the reefs are actually working as some kind of filters. They serve a very unique purpose in the ecological balance, not only in that part of the world, but also the whole Pacific Ocean and Atlantic Ocean. So I was wondering that it was your original motivation, but the situation doesn't look so good. So what do you think about it right now? But I agree that maybe indirectly we can work on energy innovations, but probably we also need some direct action that deals with the problem, right? Yeah. Thanks for the answer.
No worries.
And Kabiru, what do you work on?
Mm-hmm.
You like to share with us?
My work is actually not really related to energy, but as I am a student of electrical and electronic engineering, that's why I know a little bit of technicalities. So that's why I was really interested in ETM and I joined the team. I think I got introduced, but I wasn't present during 6:30 to 7. So I just joined after the session started from 7 p.m.
Okay. And I see TJ Saul. I don't know, would you like to, sorry for calling you out, but
Hi, can you hear me?
yes.
Hi. Yeah, so I just joined the session, because I'm interested in learning a little bit more. I live in Japan, so interested in learning a little bit more about Japan's role and things there. Yeah.
Okay. Your first time joining any ETM event, or you've joined other ones?
Yes, this is my first time.
Oh, okay. How was it for you? Did you meet?
I enjoyed it. I learned a lot.
Okay.
Sorry, there's a lot of feedback here.
And what do you do?
There's a lot of feedback here.
Okay. What do you do?
I'm working in education.
Oh, in education. Interesting. Okay. Thank you, TJ.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go ahead and pick on someone, if you don't mind. So I don't know, Leandro. I see Leandro here. Do you mind me picking on you to tell us about you and what you think?
Hello.
Hello.
Well, I come here because I am friend of Marcos, and I knew about the event in ETM from him, and I'm personally very interested in technology, and of course in energy. It's fundamental for all part of any kind of technology. So I was very interested to learn more about the group and all kind of startup and initiative related with technology. I'm currently not working with nothing near or related with energy or technology. Currently, I'm working in a game company, but I have plans to start a business related with technology innovation. So that's why I'm interesting.
Oh, thank you. We have a very diverse field here, and it's kind of great to have all these different fields come in and gain something from the energy space. So I like that a lot. Thank you, Leandro. Where are you currently right now?
I'm in Tokyo.
Are you in Japan or you're in Tokyo? Okay, that's great. Hope to see you in our other events as well.
Thank you very much.
Jim Battles, do you mind me putting you on the spot?
So I think Jim just arrived, but I think he also came.
Yeah, I think he just dropped
him.
out, so he came back, I think, yeah.
Okay.
I assume.
Okay.
So now, Jim, we're introducing ourselves.
Maybe he's having a trouble with the Zoom. Oh yeah, audio problems. Yeah, he is.
Oh, okay. How about Saul? Saul, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm joining from Israel, so it's nearly 1:30 in the afternoon. I thought it was a very interesting session. Thank you very much. Slightly away from the topic that is of interest to me and to my company, but it was great to see people hear the different thoughts and to network. And I've already connected to Andrew on LinkedIn, and he answered my question, offering to introduce me to someone who I was asking about, who is actually a customer already. But that's part and parcel of the networking. Yeah, so very interesting. Moving forward, I would be interested in, again, hearing presentations and discussions that are more to do with the operations and maintenance of the various networks, be they renewable, be they transmission distribution, because that's the field that I'm working in and I'm interested in. But I will definitely continue to join and to listen.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to hear that you could make some good networking from this event, and looking forward to seeing another one. And thanks for the area of interest you suggested. We'll take note of that for sure.
Thanks.
Okay. Jim, you're back.
Oh,
hi, Jim.
hello. So sorry, I had some audio problems. So, but let me turn on my mic so you can see me. So hello, everyone. So yeah, thank you everyone for the nice, thank you for the speakers for the nice presentations. So this is the second Energy Tech Meetup event I joined. I joined one last year. I think it was also online, so it's too bad we cannot network that well. But basically, I am a second-year master student at the Tokyo Tech, and my research is basically to how to apply AI to cow behavior monitoring. And through this research, I became more interested in social problems, so climate change, and recently I've also looked a lot into the oceans, so what's happening in the oceans and the environment there. So I got more interested in this kind of topic, and that's why I joined. Yeah, thanks. That's as far as it goes for me. Thank you.
Thank you. So anyone interested in what Jim is doing, feel free to buzz him or send him a message. Okay, I'm looking to put another, yeah?
So Amelie just came back asking, I mean, not asking, but like this, I'm recording this session and it's gonna be on like a YouTube channel on the ETM, right? So people who missed can follow up later?
I should think so. Kabir, right? This is Kabir's department.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but we will follow up with that. Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Amelin, can you tell us about yourself?
Yes, sure. I'm a translator from English and Japanese into French, and I'm specialized in renewables. So I'm here to learn vocabulary and to understand better what professionals are interested into, so I can build knowledge and find where I can be useful to them.
Okay. So you're here for the knowledge. I like that.
Exactly. I'm also I try to create a kind of hub for French companies so they can understand better the Japanese energy market. For example, where to find consulting services, potential partners, etc. So I think I would do the same for Japanese companies interested in France, but it will take time.
Okay, I'm glad. And I hope to see you in some of our events, other events as well.
Yes, I will be there.
So feel free to connect with Ameline, especially if you want to get into the French market. And we can see that she's always chasing knowledge, so she might know something, one or two things that you need to know. Okay, so we have 2 minutes to wrap up. I'm looking out for who I haven't called to talk. I think almost everyone have introduced themselves. Aaron, I think you did in the networking. Do you want to give it a shot again for those that weren't available during the networking?
Sure, yes, I can reintroduce myself. Hello, everyone. You can call me Aaron. Yeah. You can call me Aaron. I'm currently still a student and I will be graduating next month. I'm a student at Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University in Beppu, but I currently in Tokyo. I'm doing internship at EU-Japan Center for Industrial Cooperations. Well, my focus is to do the reporting and also finding like reporting the policy of Japan regarding the energy and also climate change, and send it to Brussels in EU. And I also joined ETM recently, like probably months ago, and Startup invited me. So me and Startup will create a spectacular platform for students and also experts to connect. And I hope that from this event we can also exchange and we can connect to join the events in the future, and also we can keep in touch to help to grow the community together. And that's all for me. Thank you, Grace. Yes.
So that's a wrap up from us. Thank you so much for coming for this event. And look out for our next event for sure. And just to summarize what Aaron was talking about, he was talking about the ETM Student Network, where we're trying to create a global network for students in the energy space, and also to connect them to professionals as well. So if you want to find out more about that, you can find out on our platforms, on our website, and also you can send us a message about it. So thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. Thank you for Impact Hub, always supporting us in all we do. Have a wonderful rest of the week, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much
for the presentations.
And thank you to all the speakers, Lisa, Marcos, and Andrew is no more here. So, and everyone who participated. Bye.
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 Thank you.